right. Probably going to be a little dark for those that are on YouTube, but that's all right. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it's in his name, which is his sham, his authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect tonight's message. Aman. Welcome everybody again. Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless, speaking the unspoken. And we're going to talk today about this crab in the barrel mentality. And we thank those who are on with us today. We give all honor and praise once again to Yahweh. We give all praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Amma, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A and D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we thank everybody for being on tonight. And we're going to go ahead and get into tonight's message. So when we're talking about this crab in the barrel mentality, we want to come from a position of, a lot of us only know it from the negative position, the negative thought process. Crab in the barrel mentality, crabs pull each other down. So I was listening to comedian Al Sadiq. I actually posted it on both TikTok channels. I probably try to post it on YouTube and maybe even put it on Patreon so everybody will be able to see, because I think it's a powerful thing for you to be able to, or repost it. And you'll be able to see it's a very powerful situation, because he talked about the crab in the barrel, but the thing that he said was that we always talk about crab in the barrel that pulls each other down. We pull each other down. We pull each other down. He said, however, the only reason we look at the crab in the barrel negatively is because we're not looking at a crab in its nature. And when you know me, when I hear nature, natural law, things like that, I said, I need to listen to that. I need to hear that, right? So. And he made a great point. He said crabs in nature are never supposed to be in a barrel. And you said, right? A crab in its nature is not in a barrel. So I said, okay. I said, preach, Al Sadiq. He probably laughed, not only as a comedian, but as a Muslim. But I was like, preach. He said, yeah, think about it. And hello to everybody coming on. He said, crabs are not in barrels in regular life, in everyday life. A crab in its regular natural position, crabs come together all the time. So we say crabs in the barrel are acting like they're trying to pull each other down, but he said no. See, we're looking at the crab outside of its nature, outside of its character. See, in a barrel, what makes the crab function keeps the crab from getting outside of the bucket, outside of the barrel, right? However, a crab in its nature, in the ocean, they all come together. Now, yeah, sometimes they might fight and use their pinchers to hold on to each other, things like that. But crabs like to come together in their nature. It is the nature of crabs to come together. It is the nature of a crab. If it's trying to go somewhere, other crabs hold on to it, thinking that all of them are going to go in the same direction, right? So if one crab's trying to go somewhere, the other crabs are trying to go in the same place because they belong together. Right. And we only look at it the crab and barrel mentality as far as somebody's trying to pull us down. The problem is that we're not in our nature as a people, as a society, as like-minded people. So a crab in its nature pulls on one another. A crab outside of its nature still pulls on one another, but because it's in a bucket, it looks like we're holding each other down. But the reality is that we're trying to hold on to each other. And that really blessed me and blessed my mindset and blessed the thought process that I have, because I had to say to myself, wow, like we're so busy talking about this person trying to pull us back down. The reality, though, is that somebody's trying to cling on to you, and they might not realize in that situation that clinging on to you actually does something different, because you're in a different mentality. You're in a different position. So we oftentimes will say somebody's hating on you or somebody's trying to pull you down, but because they're in a different position, they pull on you, but the pull, it feels different. Right? The pull, it feels different. I don't know how many of you watch different nature shows, BBC, Natural Geographic, things like that. How many of you might even be familiar with some of I've never really watched the crab fishing shows that they have on different, I think it's on the Discovery Channel and things like that. However, when you see a crab in nature, even when they're fishing, they know that all the crabs, if they get one crab, you're usually going to get a bunch of crabs. Right? If you get one crab, you're usually going to get a bunch, because crabs are in groups. Crabs don't go solo. If one crab eats, all the crabs are going to go looking for something to eat in that direction. If one crab is trying to make sure that it comes out and it needs protection, all the crabs come together, so there's protection. I've even seen things where stingrays will come, and they come to try and eat crabs, when crabs will come and form these huge groups, right? And when they form these huge groups, the stingray comes in and it tries to eat, but sometimes even the stingray has a problem getting to the crabs, even though it seems like just an easy, huge feast. There are so many crabs and they do so many things, and they hang on to each other, and they're all trying to move in certain ways that it actually is difficult to get your hands on one of them. In their nature, they come together. The problem is not that the problem that we're seeing with the crab and the barrel mentality is that we're seeing people come together, but because they're pulling on each other, they want each other to stay. And you got to comprehend, see, when somebody's getting ready to do something higher, what happens usually in our community is we see somebody make it to the next level and then they leave. And so now one of our children, one of our family, one of our best, we're watching them leave. And we are worried about it. We're happy for them in a sense because, hey, you made it. At the same time, though, you're leaving the community behind. And so they might try to do things to pull down on you. Now, those things might come off as negative. Those things to pull you back down might be, hey, nobody's ever made it from this family, and what you're trying to do. Why do you think you're better than us? Why do you think this? Why do you think that? Because the crab thinks differently in the bucket. In nature, it's our nature to stay together. And if one is strong, it doesn't mean that he goes and is strong by himself or by herself. It means that all of us go together, right? But in a bucket, in a different environment, in being captivated or living in the land of your captivity, pulling you together means we have to stay down. This is why we have to get back to our nature, right? How you doing, Minister Sonia? The average person is thinking that the crab in the bucket mentality means that everybody's being negative just because they want to be negative. But the reality is that we've survived, right? The focus that Al Sadiq was saying in the video was that, hey, slavery was a thing. I'm not trying to deny it, but let's not make that our focus. Our focus is that we've survived. And how do we survive? We survived because we were together. We hung on to each other like the crab does in its nature. However, you're not in your nature, so the crab hanging on to each other, it comes off as different. This, matter of fact, is just simple, Deuteronomy 28 or Willie Lynch type mentality, right? If you think about it, if you realize what's going on, you realize that when somebody takes you out of your mentality, how you doing, Sister Mary? When somebody takes you out of your mentality, somebody's taking you out of what is right for you. See, in your nature, what you do, it gives you different results, right? Then if you're in the captive, if you're enslaved, if you're mentally enslaved, if you are captivated, if you are in the land of your captivity, what you do in your freedom affects you differently than what you do when you're together. This is why we encourage being like-minded, right? This is why when you have a movie, and I forget the name of the movie, the one with Denzel Washington and Viola Davis and all those people, that was based off of the play that James Earl Jones made very popular. If you've seen that movie where Denzel Washington ends up cheating and Viola Davis' character, has one of those big cries and all that stuff in that scene. And somebody asked them after they made the movie, they said, well, why is it that this movie had to be an all-black cast, or why couldn't it be anybody else? And Denzel Washington answered, he said, well, it's about culture. Fences. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Dejan. How you doing? Right. He said it's about culture. Thank you, Don. Yeah, fences. Amen. And so he said it's about culture. And they were like, culture, please explain. He said, well, there's certain things that I can't describe to you outside of the culture. He was like, I can't tell you, right, what man, our love is the strongest weapon, right? He said, I can't tell. He says, I can tell you that when the hot comb hits the hair, it makes a sound and it has a smell. He said, but I can't really describe that to you, right? He said, August Wilson is a playwright. Okay, thank you. So he said, I can't really describe that to you, right? But he said, but somebody who's been through that can describe it. If somebody's been around the hot comb, right, then they can describe what that smells like. They can describe what they feel, that they can describe if it gets too close to the skin and burns you. They can describe what that is, right? In search of trying to make it and have a better hairstyle. Somebody, right? I can't describe to you, I can't describe to you what biscuits and gravy is first thing in the rising, right? You said you just flinched with the with the thought, yeah, because like we know what that is. I can't describe to you what it is to see, even though I never had a perm, but I watched my sister and my mother, when they were trying to do that stuff. I know what that is to see them go through the process of the perm. So when I saw Malcolm X when I was younger, the movie, I was able to know, what that perm process and what that stuff is, and trying to get it out as much as possible and put it in. I never went through it, but I have a culture that tells me what that is. I can't describe to you what it is, when somebody says, if somebody says, what's good, right? I can't describe to you, yeah, how long could you take the burn? Exactly, right. And if you could take it a little longer, the hair might be right, but you can't leave it in too long, right? Or else all the hair might fall out. You might burn your scalp up, right? Right. So there's certain things I can't describe it to you unless you've been through it, right? And so, but some of those things that we did then, they don't necessarily help us when we get to somewhere else, right? You can be permed up and everything, that's nice and everything, but you try to take the makeup and everything, you try to take that over to Africa. I can speak specifically West Africa, North Africa. You try to take it certain places and they say we don't know how to use this, right? Because even though it's your experience, they're looking for a more natural experience. And when you go back home, your nature shows up. When you go back home, you're used to hearing lies like you're the minority. But then you go to a place where you are the majority and you say, oh, this is different, right? The crab and the barrel mentality, the crabs hanging on to each other and grabbing on each other in their nature is different than the crabs that hang on to each other in the bucket. The problem is not that the crabs are hanging on to each other. The problem is the crabs are hanging to each other in the bucket. It is not the hanging on to each other that is our problem. It is the fact that the bucket has warped our mentality, right? It's not the fact that Black folk, colored folk, whatever tribe you're from, like-minded people, they like to hold on to each other, right? But it's not that. You said you can feel the heat 5 miles away. Yeah. It's not the fact that we hold on to each other. It's the fact that we're trying to hold on to each other in something that's not for us. And so wild stuff, perverted stuff, um, dangerous items, trying to, like, for example, why is it that we think that wearing baggy clothes is Black culture? How you doing, Sister Mazel? Right. I sent you a text about trying to meet up. I don't know if you got it or not, or trying to call on the phone rather, you know. But see, these are some of the things that we have to recognize and realize, right? Like that. Why is it that it's not the clothes that we wear, right? That's the problem. Why is it that you should have a problem with sagging clothes? Well, if you are sagging your pants, well, sagging your pants is something that really, for the most part, not the only reason, but for the most part, it starts with people being in prison, places like San Quentin. And when you're in there, somebody who can't have sex with the opposite sex and is oversexed before they even go in, and therefore is very perverted in thought, they start feeling the need to have some kind of sex and they feel the need to dominate. And so they try to make, women out of men, and they get raped, and that person had to sag their pants, or sometimes they even had to hold somebody's pocket while they walked around in the jail cell. And that was a way of saying you belong to somebody. Now, these same people, they get free. They want to come out of that because that was never who they really were. They're trying to get back into their mindset of who they were, including even sexually who they were. Yet they still have the mindset to sag their pants because they still belong in the mind of the person that was in the barrel rather than the place of freedom that they're in. Now here come a bunch of children who are holding on to it. We hang on to our community, right? Our society. No individual is greater than society. No society is greater than the individual, right? Yeah, how you doing? No. Yeah. Also, remember, crabs don't belong in the barrel. That's what we said earlier, right? So that's the first thing. You got to see the environment, right? So yeah, and welcome on. Thanks for being with us, right? So that person now, the community, the children, they see that person now he's supposed to be the big man on campus again or on the street again, and now he's out there sagging his pants, acting like he was the hardest one in there, when the reality he was probably the softest and the weakest and the most, taken advantage of. So this person who's insecure, walking around, wants to respect and everything, he says, yeah, this is what I did when I was in the pen or whatever. Everybody goes, oh, yo, that's cool, whatever. They start sagging their pants too. And so The bucket mentality has it to where it's holding you back in a sense, where you think it's okay to literally show your, you know what, show your behind, literally, right? Not realizing that to show your behind, it came from a bucket mentality, it came from a barrel mentality. Once again, crabs don't belong in the barrel, they don't belong in the bucket, right? But crabs belong in nature. And in nature, no matter if they're in the water, out of the water, no matter if it's a king Alaskan crab, no matter if it's a blue crab, no matter if it's a horseshoe crab, no matter if it's a spider crab, whatever the case might be, they come together in groups. This is how they operate. They survive in groups. And what is it that we do as a people, no matter what happened, right? The thing, if they really wanted to break you as people, they would have had you be away from each other. But they allowed you to stay in groups. And since you stayed in groups, you were able to hang on to each other. Problem is, you hung on to each other through jumping over the broom. So you know about jumping over the broom, but you don't know about marriage. You see? Problem is that you hung on to each other when they were breeding you. So you know more about breeding than you know about more about sex. You hung on to each other where Willie Lynch literally said, we're going to reverse your nature. And they hired people to study you to reverse your nature so that you would get away from your natural self and you would become somebody to where they could take the body, but they could keep the body, but take the mind away. And so now we're walking around as a result of that. And we're still doing and saying things. We're still whipping people. Now, we would never want to hear a white person say, I'm going to whip you. I'm going to whoop you. But we still whip and whoop each other. Why? Because the crab in the barrel mentality, to stay together, the slave master told the overseer, hey, you beat them real great, and you beat them to where they're scared, and you beat them to where they're hurt real bad, right? And once they're hurt real bad, he says, this is what I want you to do after you beat them and they're hurt real bad and all these things or whatever. Now I want you to do to where whenever you get ready to whip them, give their family members an opportunity to whip them first, right? And if they whip them first, then guess what? He says they'll whip them hard, but they'll think they're whipping each other because they love each other, because they think that you as the overseer would almost kill them, right? That's the crab in the barrel mentality. So we are coming together in the barrel in chattel slavery, and we're still holding on that crab in the barrel mentality in the negative fashion. Sorry, I just paused. Forgive me for that. Right. So we're still hanging on to certain things in that barrel, in the crab in the barrel mentality. You see what I'm saying? We're still hanging on to the things in the crab in the barrel mentality where we got to whip each other, right? Rather than, okay, use the rod sparingly. And then we know we have to spare. If you spare the rod too much, you spoil a child, but use it wisely. Use it as something to position yourself. Use it as something to put yourself on the right path, right? So you have all these different people who are coming out and saying all these different things or whatever, but you have to realize, see, that's the crab in the barrel mentality. This place you call a country, really a corporation, right? This place literally has you in a position of being that crab in the barrel. See, the crab is supposed to be with each other. It's supposed to cling on. But if all you've been taught is the negativity about oneself, then why would you cling on to something positive? If all you've been taught is that your man ain't nothing and your woman ain't nothing, then why would you cling on to anything other than women and men that ain't nothing? The chains in the mind or on the mind, right? And that's our problem. We're busy fighting against one another when we don't realize that you need to fight your way out the barrel or find a way to never be in the barrel. We have some children coming up. They don't have to be in the barrel. They can be in the ocean. They can be on the sand. They can walk across. I'm forgetting the name of the place right now where, they have the huge sea turtles and all that stuff, or not sea turtles, but tortoises and things of that nature that are on the land. But you can walk in places that are great because you can get out of the crab barrel. You don't have to stay in the crab barrel. You don't have to remain in the crab barrel. You don't have to maintain. You don't have to try and stay inside of a barrel mentality. Crabs are supposed to be together. So next time somebody's saying, "Man, y'all got a crab in the barrel mentality," start looking for the bucket. Because if you're in your nature, you want to have a crab mentality. You just don't want to have a crab in the barrel mentality. The problem is not the crab. The problem is not coming together. The problem is what? It is the barrel. What is the barrel that's causing us to not talk to each other? What is the barrel that's causing us to not trust one another? What is the barrel that's causing your marriage not to succeed? What is the barrel that's causing your children to run amok? What is the barrel that's causing your money to look funny? What is the barrel that's causing you to not be able to feed yourself? Don't look for the crab. Look for the barrel. Look for the bucket. Right? Look for what's holding you in. Because the only reason they're putting you in the barrel is because next thing up is to season you, and the next thing up after that is to cook you. And once you're dead, then they got to destroy you utterly. They got to get rid of you. They have to eat you. And the only things that are left of you, they don't even use them for anything else. They just trash them. Exactly. So let's nation build. And people try to call you a nationalist. So what? If you say USA and wave the flag, then you're a nationalist. Right? If you're okay with them going into Haiti, saying that Haiti has too much killing and everything going on right now, even though the Red Cross is over there and they send ships over there all the time from America, and they supposedly send all this stuff to help out, but they still have people killing over there. So obviously you already over there and killing still going on. So you sending more people over there means you're just going to make sure that you take complete control and use the excuse of killing, even though you've been the person who's allowed all the killing to happen. You know, we use the South Side Chicago thing all the time because they always want to talk about our people in Chicago. Amen, minister. And it's the barrel of ignorance. They all want to use our people in Chicago or DC or New York or wherever, H-Town, whatever, right? And they want to say, oh, see, they kill each other. Dallas, they always killing each other. This, that, whatever. No. Like we don't even police ourselves. You get to be the people that say this is what police are. You're the ones that say that this is what the laws are supposed to be. You're the ones that say that this is the curriculum that they have to learn. These babies have to learn. And then they go through all that and then they still end up in the same place. You got to ask yourself, if they cared so much about you, why wouldn't they put you in your nature to where you would come together without a bucket mentality? But it's because they love you being in the barrel. It's their opportunity. They live off of eating off of us. They live off of seasoning us. Right? They live off of doing those things. Right? Sometimes they don't even want to get their hands dirty, so they hire people that literally crack us open, so they don't even have to touch us after we've been killed, so they can eat off of us, but they can have their hands clean. Those of you who know about them blue crabs and Baltimore crabs, some of y'all who eat crabs like that and them crawdaddies and all that stuff, y'all know that you got to get dirty to eat them. Right? You got to be dirty. Matter of fact, that's one of the reasons you shouldn't eat crabs and stuff like that, because you actually have to eat some of their filth. You actually have to be willing to eat like some of their poop. You get shrimp and stuff, you see the poop line and stuff like that, right? But they're doing that stuff. They hunt crab. They put them in a barrel, and then they say the same mentality that's in their nature. See, now that we put them in the barrel, see, that same mentality messes them up. Our problem is not the crabs. The problem is not that people hang on to you. The problem is not that people want us to stay together. The problem is that they put you in that bucket. They put you in that barrel. There's more problem with the old bay than there is with bay, if y'all caught the analogy, right? The stuff that old bay that they season her with before they cook her up is the stuff that makes her taste the way that she does to them. Your black woman feeling insecure is what they feed off of. How you doing, Sister Denise? Right? Her insecurity is what's fed off of. And when you say something about it, they say you've got a victim mentality. Why? Because they're saying you ain't seasoned. But we'll get you. We'll cook you eventually. We'll get you. We'll have you in that bucket. But yeah, she's sneezing. She's sick. She's insecure. She's not acting like herself because she's in a bucket. And when you're trying to make it out, of course she's gonna try and grab onto you. But she's in a situation. Can you imagine? I mean, there's people out there that do all types of inhumane stuff and eat each other and things like that. But can you imagine being an adult human being and somebody's throwing seasoning on you because they're about to throw you in a pot to cook you while you're alive? Not even going to do what they do to frogs. When they cook frogs, they have to put the water down low, and then they just leave it off. They put the frogs in the pot. The frogs will just stay there, and then eventually they keep slowly making it rise and slowly making it rise and slowly making it rise until the frog, before it knows it, it's already too late. They cooked up, right? But with the crab, they just throw the crab in. They say that the crab needs to be cooked fresh. It needs to be cooked right away while it's still yet living. Matter of fact, it needs to change color. You got to cook it so much that it's not even the same color that it used to be. Sound like Willie Lynch. Drop of blood here, drop of blood there, drop as much good white blood. That's what it said in the Willie Lynch letter. Drop as much good white blood as you can. How you doing, Sister Barbara? And eventually, as you keep dropping this good white blood, you'll get different versions of what you want to serve you or to eat off of. See, this is why we have to see, once again, don't pay attention to the crab. The crab's supposed to come together, but in a negative state, you have negativity and negativity to come together. Of course, you're going to have negativity. Do you have the fortitude? Do you have the heart? Do you have the desire to love your people, even as they are not living correctly, even as they are about to be served up and cooked up? Do you have the heart's desire to love your people? A black supremacist? Well, if you mean if I'm supreme as being a human being, then yes, call me whatever you want. Call me whatever you want, because I don't think that just because you're white or you have a white mentality that you're evil. But you seem to have a problem with me just because I speak for my people, right? Who's more supreme, the person that loves themselves and can love others, or the person that hates those who love themselves? You see what I'm saying? This person's problem that came on, their problem is not the crab. Their problem is the bucket. You said that's a racist or extreme mind. So if I love myself, but I also love somebody of another race, then what's extreme about that? What's racist about that? If I was racist, I would have a position of power and say that you couldn't do anything. And I would take your people and I would take your land and I would tell you the doctrine of discovery was right. And I would have something called the black man's burden, because that's something they're called the white man's burden. But I have love for you and respect for you, even though you can't even say hello. You know why? Because the problem is not the crab. The problem is the bucket of your mind that you're stuck in. You said you're all Elohim's creation. Sure, we all are, but there's a difference between creatures and sons. And the person who's coming on here, you're obviously not acting like a son of the Most High. If you heard me mention a color, and it got you to think that I must be somebody hellish, there must be a bucket of hell that's caused hell in your life, to think that you have to automatically think that I hate you, and you didn't even hear a full sentence yet. But I still love you, even despite what you tried to do here. You see that? Because that's what it's all about. Still have love for you. Still have love for you. And there's nothing you can do about it. No matter how much you want to call me a black supremacist, there's still nothing you can do about that. Your first response was black supremacist. And now you say that you love me. You know why? Because I loved even you, despite how you might have said something about me. They said the same about the prophets before me. Yahshua, who you call Jesus, he said that they would do that in Matthew chapter 5, verses 10 through 12. He said, still love them and rejoice and be exceeding glad when they do that. When they try to depreciate you, that means you're really being appreciated. You're growing in value, right? Don't assume that you're not somebody who can be loved just because somebody else started something saying that there was a difference between white and black as far as salvation, because I've never spoken those words, right? That's a true supreme being, no matter what your color is. My supremacy is tied to the supremacy. Really, my supremacy comes from the fact that it's not my supremacy, it's the Most High supremacy. See, and that's why we can't have conversation. And I appreciate you, even for saying that. While you try to depreciate, we appreciate. This is what we're saying, right? It's the environment we're in. The problem is not the crabs. People talk about the crab in the bucket. Crab's nature is not the bucket. Crab's nature is not racism. A crab's nature is not to come on and say negative things about each other without knowing each other. The crab's nature is to come together. But when you're in the bucket and you can't see that well now, and now you're in on each other, and now it's irritating. Every time you try to move, you can't even move correctly. There is no freedom to go this way or that way, to the north, to the south, to the east, to the west. Right? There's too much noise, there's too much chatter, there's too much rubbing against each other. Of course you're going to be irritated. But see, now here's the key. Don't look at the crab. In this case, the bucket's the problem, but don't even look at the bucket. Now you need to figure out who put you in the bucket. Who taught you that that should be your first response? Hallelujah. Who is it that taught us that that should be our first response? Oh, you're a black supremacist. You think that you think that you should love being black or whatever. You should think you should love being a Moor. You think you should love being Cherokee. You think you should love being Taino. Why not? And why does that mean that I can't love you? I mean, we could even go by that definition. You have to have power to be racist and all that, sure. But racism, ISM, means it's a system. Racism, militarism, and capitalism, they go together like this. Hey, babe, how you doing? My wife is on the Honorable Bloom and Flourish. Check her out on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. So we have to get back. We have to be better than that, and that's why I don't have a conqueror's mindset. We say this all the time on here. Don't worry about having a conqueror's mindset. Be more than a conqueror. I don't think like a conqueror. I think like more than a conqueror. Conquerors only want you to have democracy. Democracy is a few people that live in a certain place that give you a small amount and they govern you by the little they give you, including a little bit of love. Because once you take away love from somebody, all they got to do is give you a little bit of love. Oh, you know what? We never went over the book. Maybe that's what we were supposed to do on Tuesday. We were supposed to go over the book, Pimp, by by uh by something Slim. Why am I forgetting his name? By something Slim. What was his name? Whatever his pimp name was. But he talked about in the book where there was a Iceberg Slim. Thank you. Where there was a woman who got out of control, and there was a guy, a pimp, that told him, like, this is how you handle the woman that gets out of control. What did he do? He said, you take her. He said, and you basically, she starts acting up, she starts talking up, she starts doing whatever, right? Right? And she does all those things, but that's a heck of a way to test me. I think you should have tested me with kindness, but either way, thanks for staying on, right? So she does all those things. She does all these things. And so he said, you whip her with a hanger, with a wire hanger, and you make sure you put welts in the back, you open the skin, all that stuff or whatever, right? And then he said, what you do is you give her a bath, a nice warm bath, and you help her to heal up a little bit. And then you give her some drugs. And she'll be so happy that you helped her to be able to forget that she's in pain, that she'll forget that you're the mother effer that put her in pain in the first place. Right? So the problem is not the bucket, even as much as it is you got to figure out who puts you in the bucket. Yeah, my phone is low too, actually. Right? But you got to figure out who put us in the bucket. Who told you that it was okay for all these crabs to be in this barrel? And it what usually would be us coming together to make sure that we could unite. Now it's the same thing. Okay, thanks, babe. Now it's the same thing that we come together and it causes us to hate. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. That's where our mind should be. So the crabs in the barrel, don't focus on the crabs. Eventually you can get there. We change the mentality of crabs, yes, but see, the mentality, what's causing the mentality is the bucket, is the limit, right? The limit that you think that you have. If you're more than a conqueror, there is no limit. The conqueror can't break your spirit. Tried. Didn't do it. The conqueror can't make you hate. They tried. Couldn't do it. The choice is yours, right? Where you focus on the crabs and tear each other up and make it easier for the person who's seasoning you to go ahead and throw you in, or where you say, first things first, we got to get rid of this bucket, right? We have to make it to a point to where we can't even get inside the bucket. See, now we got to start talking about the lures. What are the lures that they throw in the water? What are the traps that they put in there? If you see a trap, have you told somebody else about the trap? If you were in a trap but you made it out, can you tell others so that they don't ever have to be trapped and go down that road again? Right? Don't focus on the crab as much. Right? Don't focus on the crab as much. I know, I get it. The crab is gonna hurt you. I know the crab gonna talk bad about. I know there's a crab out there. They crabby. They always talking bad about you, this and that or whatever. But start looking at the situation they're in. Start looking at the barrel. Bruh, I get it. You try to love her, and she can't accept your love. But what if she never had a father in her life? I'm going to have to repeat that because we just lost our signal. Sorry, TikTok. I was trying to say, you brother, you might have a problem with the wife or with your sister, but what if she never had a father in her life? And so here you are showing her what a husband is and what a father is, and she can't even accept it yet because she was always in the bucket. Help her get out the bucket and then see if she loves you for it when you put her in the nature where she feels secure. Sisters, I know he always talking about hear me and this and that or whatever, but what if he never was really respected like that? What if he was always told, by the same mother that you think that babies him is also the same mother that told him that he wasn't allowed to really think? Some brothers pine for their mother's love because they never got the mother's love that you assume that they got. And what if you're trying to love him now as a wife did? What if he came out of a bad relationship to where he was abused? I know we don't think of men as being abused, but what if he was abused? Will you love him out of that bucket? I fully admit to y'all, my wife, the Honorable Amma, she has had a lot of times to remind me that the things that I was trying to blame her for and put on her and tell her that was wrong, she had to remind me, like, I'm not that person. I don't know what you keep saying, but I've never done that to you. And when I listened, when I opened my ears up and I listened, I had to say, you're right. You never have done that. And she stayed to heal me. She didn't just, right? In loving me, she healed me. In loving me, she empathized. In loving me, she said, man, that's terrible. And now I've even heard her a couple of times be like, man, some of the things that you dealt with in your past, I wish I could meet that person and give them, what for, so to speak. Right. But she loved me. She loved me past the respect that I never got, to respect me. And then come to find out, when I realized she was respecting me, she had always been respecting me. She had to remove the bucket so I could see it, though. She had to put me back in my natural place as a male in our culture. I know this isn't everybody's culture, but in our culture, she put me back in my natural spot. And now she allows me to do stuff where before I didn't think I could make decisions and she was going to hear it, but she's willing to hear it. But you know what? She feels secure. So she trusts me to secure that. And so that which is secure, so she feels she should respect it. And I love securing that which respects me. See, that's the bucket. We removed the bucket of the society that said that she was the problem and she wanted to be the man and she had to wear the pants and she was strong and independent and all this stuff. We removed that bucket, that to be the man, it meant that she had to listen to every single thing I said and she shouldn't say anything about, like, we removed the bucket of all that stuff. When you remove that bucket and you're back in your nature, oh man, it is beautiful. Right? When you remove that bucket, it's beautiful, right? It doesn't mean that you're going to get everything that you want. That doesn't matter. We removed the bucket of thinking that we married somebody who was going to agree or do every single thing that we wanted them to do. We love the person. We love the crab so much that we'll remove the bucket and we'll take time out to watch them go back to their nature and find out, once they're in their nature, who they always were in the first place. Do you have the capability? Do you have the fortitude? Do you have the heart to love somebody like that? To love your neighbor like that? To love your community like that? Right? Do you have the fortitude to love Kanye like that? I see you, Minister Tamara. Right? You see what I'm saying? And it does take time. It takes time, it takes effort. And a lot of us were not trained correctly, including myself. Right? I had to unlearn some of the things. I saw a lot of great things from my mother and father. There's a lot of things that I never learned, though, I never saw. Right? So I got rid of blaming the crab for acting weird when somebody seasoned it in a bucket, and I said the crab never belonged in the bucket in the first place. When you think like that, now the crab in the bucket mentality, it works different, because now the same crabs that always love to be together, we love to be together in our nature. So when we come into captivity, of course we love to be each other. The problem, though, is not the coming together, it is the bucket. So remember, we're going to #finish strong and living inside of that which we have pursued this year. We're also going to make sure that we make it a point to do what? We're going to make it a point to look beyond what we see in the bucket, and we're going to move past that so that now we can press and strain towards a higher calling, which is to become a holy nation, a royal priesthood, a peculiar people, right? And a chosen generation. You are chosen for such a time as this to be the curse breaker. Let us be what we're chosen to be. Thank you all so much. Appreciate you. Got to get ready for class. Talk to you guys later. Told you guys we finally started uploading some of these videos and some of these pictures, so you guys will be getting some of this stuff little bit by little, especially those that were there and those who are there on the Zoom meetings and things like that. You'll see some of the stuff probably even a little better than what you saw before. We got different angles, so it's going to take me a minute to get all that stuff together, but just give us some time. But we're at least starting to release some of the stuff that you guys will be able to look at and see and hear and go back over. Thank you guys so much. By the way, I didn't show it to you guys. Matter of fact, I don't think I have it with me at this location. When we go back down south, we still do have some bags and things like that. So people who we're part of Zoom and everything. Just give us a little bit of time. We'll make sure we give you some bags and stuff like that and send it to you. Some of the people that weren't there, that we still got to get you your certificates, we'll probably get you your bags and stuff as well. If you're interested in having a bag and things like that, some of the bags still have all the stuff in them. We're running out of those, but we still have some bags at least that have maybe party favors, or some of them may not have the Bibles in them, may not have the cards in them and stuff, but at least you can have some of the bags for yourself to be able to take with you and to enjoy. We thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. If this is your first time with us, we come on not this channel, but Kofi_43 every rising at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time for a few hours. And then every evening at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time, we come on Kofi_42 at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. If you're on YouTube, we just come on this channel on YouTube each and every time. So thank you all again. We appreciate you all. We thank you guys so much. We honor the King and Queen, each and every one of you. Once again, please, we give all honor to Yahweh. Please pray, meditate, study this message that was given. And once you find it to be true, make sure you're not just a hearer of it, but you are a doer as well. We thank you so much for what it is that we're accomplishing as a people, as a community. We hope that you guys do well. We hope that you take care of each other. We hope that you're rested. Thank you for being on. And if you're on this channel, like I said, we'll be on Kofi_42 tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. But we're on Kofi_43, not this one, number 2, but number 3. We're on here every evening at 8 p.m. Right? I'm sorry, 8 a.m. Kofi_43 every rising at 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. Kofi_42 every evening, weeknight evening at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time. We'll try to have our special session for you guys with the Honorable Maya and myself on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern New York time as well. So thank you again. We appreciate you. Take care, fam. And until we have the great privilege and honor of being in front of you again, as always, it's been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we're always changing lives one mind at a time by being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And remember, Yashadel, that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Take care.